For the third video in this series, we're going to go through a piece of equipment rental so that you guys are able to see these bills, the information that accounting provides to you, and that we have captured from everything that you've reported on the runtime hours on each piece of equipment, and how it can help you in approving the bill. So I have an example pulled up of one of the rental ones that's waiting currently for me to approve it. I go through and double check the details, make sure that everything is sensible, and then it gets passed on to the PM to approve. And then for right now, as Jake mentioned in the other one, they will all go to him, just so that we can know that you guys are comfortable, make sure that all the bases are being covered. This one is also a good example too. Anybody that, if you've got questions and you don't necessarily want to approve or deny it, you can always add a note. You can use the @ symbol if you want to send it to somebody in particular and ask a question about it. And once you do that, all notes that are on here are available for everybody to be able to see. So you can see any of the communication around the bill off to the side like that. So I'm going to cancel out of that and not send a note. So with this one, the invoice date here is September 23rd. Does not correspond to the actual rental period that they're billing for us. And they're all pretty good about laying it out in here. So we check that, check the rental dates, make sure that we have not already been charged for July 13th. We also check start and end hours if they have sent those to us. So those are the things that we're looking for. You find the serial number, make sure that it matches with our model, all that kind of stuff. Again, if you expand this, you can see the site that we are sending it to. But with this one, it becomes important to know, here is the bill. Right behind the bill, and if the bill is 2 pages, then this would be page 3, but this is a 1-page bill. The second page is the information from Salesforce that we have collected on this piece of machinery. So here it reiterates to us to make sure that we have the Salesforce information that matches the bill for the piece of equipment that we're talking about, this Dozer 1163, and that these dates are matching with what the bill says. If you go down to the calculated cost, the base range hours tells you how many hours we tracked or that you guys tracked in putting in your equipment hours daily. That was run on the machine between July 13th and August 12th, these base rental dates. Now on this one, they also charged us for overages, so we also put in the overage dates in looking at that. And so the overage hours here are 25. The base range hours gives you the total hours that were run on the machine, just completely looking at that. And then you can go over here to see minimum hours, shows the base hours that they bill. So if this base range hours was only 80, for example, you would still expect to see a bill for this 4,200 and the minimum hour rate of 100. But this one is a great example of one that ran over. And so what does that look like with the overage range hours? Because we've got 25 hours, that falls into this rate then per hour, this 38.86 times the 25 hours. And over here it gives you the calculation for those overage costs. So according to Salesforce and our records, this bill should have been charged to us at $5,171.50. If you go back up here to information, and this is all the information captured from the bill, they actually billed us $5,132.64. So that's not an exact match. Anytime it's not an exact match, we will always put comments at the very bottom so that you understand why it is that we still think it's a valid bill for us to pay and why it's a valid amount. And then we will send it on to you for approval. You have the option to say, nope, I had an agreement on site with Gregory Pool that they were not going to bill us for these overage range hours or the overage hours because there were issues with the machine or that sort of a thing. And if that's the case, then you deny the bill and tell us you had an agreement on the ground that said you should have only been billed for these 100 hours on this, and then we will take it back to Gregory Pool and get them to send us a new bill. But here's where you can see our comments that we say, well, we're 1 hour off, and the vendors, we've learned we don't have any control as to when on the 13th they pulled the hours from that machine. So it is very common for there to be between a 1 and a 5 hour variance. And so those we will almost always pass through and send on for approval. But you always have the option to say, nope, it should have been exact, or if you had any other agreement on the ground, and send it back to us.
One good reason, Emmy, to potentially not approve a bill, and in this case, it shouldn't be an issue, but let's say, guys, you're looking and your minimum hours is just like this, it's 100, and you only ran 70 hours. One reason you may have only ran 70 hours is because the machine was not available to run 100 hours. That is a good example of a bill you should deny. You did not have that machine available for the minimum number of hours. That is something we need to know so that we can get the correct amount billed for only having the machine available 70 hours. It doesn't happen that often, but it can. So that's another good reason to deny a bill.
Yep, agreed. And this Salesforce page is going to be the most helpful thing as we've gone through this. Like Gregory Pool does a pretty good job of saying they're looking at these starting hours, these ending hours. It might be an hour or two off from where we started that day from. And they give us the dates, they give us the machine and lay it all out. We're able to match to it. But a lot of vendors, they're not necessarily this clear in their information. So they just give us the amount and the dates, but then we break it down to say, all right, how much of this is overage? How much of this is minimum? So this is where you will understand what it is that they're billing, and you either agree or disagree with it. And that, I think, pretty well covers what you'll need to know for the equipment rental.
Yep.
There will be other pages up here. We will talk about those at another time. Typically, it just means that they were attached after the fact because either of issues or of credits that the vendor gave. But typically, the bill that we're having you review is going to be in this series of pages of the first attachment. So up here, it's how many attachments. And each attachment you go to it, they can have one or multiple pages. Everything gets captured in there. And I'm not sure if I demonstrated, but if you're looking at a bill and you're just not sure, you don't want to approve or deny it, but you want to leave it to come back to later, you can use these buttons up here to just move to the next one that's in your queue and not necessarily worry about it. But this one, this is another rental bill that's come to us. So again, I would go to page 2 to see, and this is one, it only ran for 55 hours during this July 18th to August 14th. So according to our records, it's less than 100, so we're still going to get charged that monthly base rate. So that from accounting is just going to go to you for approval. You will have to be the one that says it was not available for the 100 hours to run because it was in repairs or whatever type of a situation if you want to deny it. But if it is less than the minimum and they're only charging us the base rate, accounting will always send that on to you to either approve or deny. And that should cover it. So again, reach out to anybody in accounting if you've got questions on Bill.com or any of the information in Salesforce. We own that, definitely. If you've got any questions on the equipment or the repairs bill, then you go to Jake and the ones that he gave you. That's it. Happy reviewing and approving.